Fans have been wondering what the Twins are going to do to catch Cleveland. Well, now there's two first-place teams in the AL Central that aren't Minnesota. We'll tell you about it just as soon as we get Locked On Twins.
You are Locked On Twins, your daily Minnesota Twins podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello again, everybody, and welcome back to Locked On Twins, your daily go-to destination for the top Minnesota Twins insight, discourse, and analysis. A reminder that the Locked On Twins podcast is a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm co-host Dave Brown, a professional ball writer since '98 and BBWA member since 2012. Please follow me on Twitter and answer Dave Brown if you like. Across cyberspace is Brandon Warren, a Twins watcher for 30 years who not long ago covered the team on a daily basis professionally. He asks, by the way, that you unfollow him on Twitter at Brandon_Warren. In this podcast, we will look at the Twins' seventh loss in 9 games, an 8-6 defeat to the Atlanta Braves on Tuesday night. Before we pour salt into the wound, let's find out from Brandon who's bringing us this episode of Locked On Twins.
Well, now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. And if you know anything, a lot of people are talking about how expensive Sunday Ticket is this year. So this could be interesting. Also, you can catch every pitch of the Twins hometown broadcast with Chris Atterbury and friends on SiriusXM. Just download the SXM app and search Twins. It's David Festa going against Chris Sale, a rare 640 start in the final game of a series. Usually it's a little earlier than that when the other team's getting out of town. But with Thursday off before Toronto comes to town, it's another evening contest. So get ready for Festa and Sale.
The heck with you, Braves. You can't leave town early. You've got to stay all night.
Mm-hmm.
You can't leave Minnesota during the day to get to your next destination, wherever it is. And we don't even care what it is, where you're going, especially if the Twins finally win a game in this series. They've given up 18 runs in 2 days. Like we said, they lost 8-6 in 10 innings on Tuesday night. The Twins came back twice. First, they were down 4-0. Although it seemed as they were not scoring. I don't know if they win the StatCast World Series again on this one, but it seemed like they had lots of opportunities to score and lots of. It's almost like, well, why hasn't it happened yet? Kind of a thing. That's sort of a sub theme of how this season's gone. But they came back. They had a good attitude about it. They scored 3 in the 7th and 1 in the 8th, and it seemed like what happened was it seemed like they were going to score 7 or 8 runs.
Mm-hmm.
In the last couple innings, and Joe Jimenez did not let that happen. He sort of went from all heck's breaking loose to let's stop this thing now. So
the slider
was amazing. It was and it was good enough to keep the Twins from sending it home in a walk-off before we went to the silly the extra inning rules. And Jhoan Duran, while his speed was great, his location was not so good, and the Braves were doing things like turning around 102-mile-an-hour fastballs, but then sometimes there'd be change-ups that didn't change, and they'd hit those back up the middle, and they got another big inning out of it. The Twins still rallied again in the last inning, but Matt Wallner was not able to, let's say, hit a winning home run or whatever. And the good news is that, again, Cleveland lost, amazingly. So even though the Twins have lost 7 of their last 9 games, many of those coming at home, they're not really any further out of first place than they've been for the last couple of weeks.
Bobby Nightingale said they've lost a half game over that span.
Right. I mean, so they technically are, and technically is the best correct there is, but it's only a half game. So for as bad as the Twins have done in converting these opportunities to, and it still might end up haunting them. Mathematically speaking, they're still in it. The issue now is because, as we kind of have been intimating here for a few weeks, somebody was going to overtake the Guardians at some point, and that somebody apparently is the Royals. They haven't overtaken them yet. They're tied. They are resilient, the Royals, and they are taking advantage of the opportunities where the Twins had opportunities to beat Cleveland earlier this year and kind of did it, but didn't really take full advantage of it. And now here we are on the bad end of being in third place and worrying about now what are they going to do to catch Kansas City? Are they going to be able to do anything to catch Kansas City? Do you think that's going to happen?
Well, I feel like the more we look at it, the more it's like they're running out of time more than anything. I feel good about the Twins' depth. I feel good about their ability to take a streak like this and turn it around on a dime. And again, like I always say, baseball will never stay the same. It'll get better. It'll get worse. So even if the Twins have dropped, like they have in this stretch, they're one game from turning it around and doing the opposite. But it just at this point, when I was watching the game and they're down 4-0, it wasn't like I felt that despair that you see a lot of Twins fans where it's over, the season's over, they're not going to make the playoffs, but more along the lines of just like, I've stopped believing good things are going to happen. You know what I mean? Like, I don't have that it's over despair because I know baseball. I've watched baseball long enough to where things change, and they change a lot in a small amount of time. But I've just kind of gotten to this like general state of malaise where I'm like, oh yeah, if they were going to make up ground, it would have sure been nice to do it the last week or so. But, we all talk about this. The Rangers had that terrible stretch late last year. The relief pitchers couldn't get anybody out. They lost 16-20. That doesn't mean anything in regard to this year's Twins team. But again, it shows that you do not have to be firing at all cylinders all season long to have a chance. And so hopefully in a month or two, we'll look back at this and be like, man, that stretch stunk. But hey, guess what happened after that? But right now, would I say I have any confidence in that being possible or happening? Not particularly so.
Well, across the division, we are kind of seeing Cleveland get a little bit of a comeuppance and a return to reality. I did think it's a coincidence, but I thought it was funny that Ramon Laureano had a big hit. Laureano was a Cleveland outfielder, and ever since he came to the Braves, he's done quite well. I think he's hitting about 300, and he's they had that when they won the World Series 3 years ago. They had that very interesting exchange where they traded away all their or they didn't trade away, but they added a whole bunch of outfielders. They added like 4 outfielders in the middle of the season because the ones
Eddie Rosario was one of them.
Eddie Rosario was one of them. Well, now Ramon Laureano is another one, and he looked like he was his career was flatlining with Cleveland, but still Cleveland, I guess, they're going to get the Twins one way or another, aren't they?
I mean, are you saying Laureano or are you saying Rosario? Because I think they were both rescued from Cleveland, weren't they?
No, yeah, they were. But what I'm saying is, well, Eddie Rosario doesn't have anything to do with how.
No, I mean,
Atlanta's coming back. I'm saying that Laureano has got some kind of Guardians juju going on, and he's the Twins the Guardians are getting at the Twins through Laureano and the Braves. That's what I'm saying.
I just think it's funny that history is repeating itself. Cleveland casts off an outfielder, and suddenly Atlanta's got found money. And Jorge Soler was part of that in that first instance too. And then they brought him back this year. And Gio Urshela, I mean, it does have the vibes of like Atlanta picks up a bunch of spare parts in July and August, and suddenly they're good again. Although think of it this way. I mean, I'm sure Twins fans wouldn't want to hear it, but they both have the same exact 72-60 record. And I feel like Twins fans think the Braves are just some insurmountable force.
Yeah. The Braves definitely, it isn't quite like the 2021 season where they were able to just kind of slough off that all the injuries, and they've had some similar injuries to similar players this year, losing Ronald Acuna Jr. and so forth. And that is one thing, though. The Braves have had all kinds of terrible things happen to their team, their roster. And here they are. I mean, it's not, they're not going to take first place. I don't really think we're going to see them go to the World Series and win it. But here they are, 72-60. Lots of bad stuff's happened to the team, and they are resilient anyway. So it's and I think the Twins are resilient, but also we look at them not having Carlos Correa, and Buxton isn't in the lineup, and they just lost Joe Ryan, and I think we sort of use that as excuses, and the Braves don't really do that. They don't use that as excuses as to why they're not winning as much as they thought they would. So, but I think that's even more fans doing that, Twins fans doing that than the Twins themselves. I think the Twins have the right attitude. They believe in themselves, and I think that's one of the saving graces for the season in the end. But that's probably only going to be true if they get some of these guys back here in the last month, 5 weeks of the season. So let's take a commercial break and then talk more about these fun times that we're having.
All right, now you've heard us talk about FanDuel a whole bunch. They're America's #1 sports book, and for good reason. But they have something exciting going on this fall. It's a little different, though. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. And again, I don't know if you've heard the scuttlebutt, but people are pretty fired up about how much Sunday Ticket costs. So, hey, get a free look-see into it for the first 3 weeks of the season. And then with a YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out-of-market game. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment, and you can cancel at any time. By the way, let's look at these Twins and their lines for the series finale against the Braves. We have the Twins at -144 and +1.5 against the spread. The money line has the Twins at +120, and the over-under is set at 7.5. So that's Festa Sale, 6:40 p.m. first pitch. And this is also, again, a reminder, FanDuel, $5, bet $5. And now through September 22nd, you'll get a 3 free week trial of NFL Sunday Ticket. Again, visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to download America's #1 sports book and check it out.
One thing that I didn't necessarily like about this game from how it was played or how it was played out was Duran again struggling. You said it the other day. He hasn't quite been himself. For the most part, he's had, his fastball's been 101, 102 it was tonight. But his location has just been, for all the great things that Pete Mackey has done with some pitchers, there's got to be a tweak or something. One thing they can't afford to have, just considering how the team is made up, what they have going for them and who's hurt and who's not available, they got to have Duran on more than he is.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Do you think there's something that Pete can do here with Duran to tweak his location? Is it pitch calling? Is it, the kinds of pitches that he's throwing? Should he just not throw something anymore? Because, should he get away from the breaking pitches and just try and locate his fastball? What's a guy to do?
Well, against Ozuna, you can oftentimes I feel like you can tell when Duran's accuracy is going to be scattershot. The first pitch he threw was a curveball under Ozuna's chin. And I think at that point it was like, oh boy, here we go again. Now, it's not uncommon for guys to sometimes they want you to think they're a little wild. Sometimes they have an erratic first pitch and then kind of rein it in. But he went curve, fastball, curve. Gave up the double to Ozuna, and it was a ringing double besides. Somehow Jared Kelenic did not score on that play, and I'm still not sure how. Jared Kelenic, to me, just looks like a guy who may lack that secret ingredient that makes a decent player a great player. And right there, I have no idea how, Austin Martin laying on his back on the warning track, and somehow Kelenic doesn't score from second there. Anyway, I feel like with Duran, I wonder if they don't need like a 2-week reset where he moves further up in the bullpen. Griffin Jacks takes some of the bigger innings, and then I might even push Cole Sands behind him. I've been so impressed with Cole Sands lately that I don't know. I need Duran to show me something in this last 4 or 5 weeks that make me believe that I should trust him at the end of games more than anybody else in this bullpen, because right now he's still an after for me, but he's also after I see if Griffin Jax is going to be available, and maybe even Cole Sands. I need to see more from Duran, and if it means pulling him out of some of these higher leverage spots, I'm in favor of that.
I was thinking, hey, is this I'm not at the games. I'm not at this game. I was thinking that maybe this would have been a game for a second straight inning from Jax, and it didn't happen. And I don't think that's just not something they're going to do. And
Sands threw 6 pitches and didn't go back out there.
Well, Sands has been used in multiple innings recently, so
yeah, true.
That's a situation there. But Jax has never used. A few times he's maybe gone 1 1/3 innings, but I haven't looked to see the last time was where he needed to get more than 3 outs. I think tonight would have been a good game for that. I don't know necessarily if that would have won the game for them or whatever. Because again, Duran, no matter where he is at the end of the bullpen, he's got to get guys out. I still say that maybe stretching Jax a little bit would be a good idea for this team, but if Rocco's not going to do it, he's not going to do it.
Jax has 3 outs or fewer in 41 straight appearances. His last appearance of more than 3 outs was May 8th, Seattle in Minnesota, and then before that, it says only 1 all season. So it's 1 of 60, if you count tonight, that he's worked more than 3 outs. So again, like you said,
he's probably their best pitcher, and it's tough when your best. I mean, I know your best pitcher sometimes is a reliever, and relievers usually go 1 inning, but it would be nice to.
I think game flow would have been easier to dictate it too had they played more of a traditional game where they led most of the way and could line things up a little more easily. Yeah. Again, managing a bullpen takes a certain level of foresight that. What is it? The insane lament, but like whatever they say on Austin Powers, like the fans who think they know how to manage a bullpen and don't know their, head from a hole in the ground. If it was a more traditional setup where the Twins led in the 8th and you knew you had to get 6 outs, you got to knock down 6 Braves to get to the promised land, I think that maybe changes it. But again, we're going on 40 some straight games where they haven't done that with Jax. So I think it would be more of an easier move to second guess if that were the case, as opposed to, well, this is kind of how it goes, and you lay more blame at the feet of Jhoan Duran than anybody else.
I look at that and I think about this too. It's there's a butterfly effect, and we sort of joke about that because we don't always know what the butterfly effect means, but it's like you change one thing and then exponentially and the exponentially isn't the word either, but there are permutations that happen.
Yes.
And all kinds of. If Byron Buxton is in this game, as well as Austin Martin has been playing center field, if you notice that ball, the Ozuna hit off the fence,
he doinked it.
Buxton catches that.
Oh yeah,
Buxton catches that. And I think
pretty easily.
I mean, maybe with some difficulty, but Buxton catches that, and that changes the complexion of that inning. I think Kelenic was tagging up. That was the first thing that was going on there. That's the first reason why he didn't score. Now you see Martin kind of flailing around on the ground on his back, and you're wondering, well, couldn't he have made up that? Kelenic made up that ground by then, but I don't know. I think Buxton catches that, and I think that changes the game. I mean, this is one of those instances where they, that's really hard to overcome, as well as better as Martin has been playing in the outfield. I think a seasoned center fielder, not even Buxton, but some, maybe even
Michael or even Manuel Margot. Yeah. I think too, like in watching it in real time, it felt as though he might have overran it and hit him like on the wrist or something. Yeah. Like it was weird. It was more than just, oh, hey, he was running into the fence and all that. It was like if he tried to prepare himself to run into the fence and then lost track of the ball, that would make more sense to me. And then all of a sudden he's planking backwards on the ground and Jared Kelenic is at third base. If Buxton's out there and catches it, Kelnic's still at third base. So I mean,
Right.
it is what it is, but the result of the rest of it is not getting it out. And getting it out obviously shortens that inning considerably, which would have been very helpful.
It still bothers me that the Major League Baseball uses these rules for extra inning games. I mean, they've shortened the games. They've the pitch clock is done. It's what they wanted it to do. I
Mhm.
don't think they need to start these extra innings with a person on base. I think it's just
The gimmick
a
ball, I
waste of
hate.
time. You got to cough.
Yeah. No, I don't like the gimmick ball, and if you've got the pitch clock and it's working, I think that in turn takes care of all the issues you have as far as timing with these games. It's not going to kill anybody, or I mean, I don't think it's going to kill anybody to have a game every 2 months that goes 15 innings. And if that's the case where it does bother somebody enough to have a 15 inning game where it hurts somebody very bad or anything like that, it's just kind of the cost of playing the game. But I don't like the idea of a shootout at the end of overtime either. And so it's MLB kind of trying to do their version of that.
It
Football.
might kill me if I have to cough my way through it. Hey, why don't we do our commercials and then we'll do our final segment?
Hey, that sounds great. We'll give our sponsors some more love and then we'll wrap this thing up. Get supplies from the site that's made for the skilled trades. It's SupplyHouse.com. SupplyHouse.com is the reliable way to order plumbing, HVAC, and electrical products online, and their easy-to-use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. Shop a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from over 400,000 top brands and get your order delivered right to your door with fast shipping from coast to coast. Need help with an order? Get expert support and industry-leading service from the friendliest folks in the game and talk to a real person every single time. Now, if you're a pro in the skill trade, you can get a competitive advantage by joining SupplyHouse.com's free TradeMaster program at SupplyHouse.com/TM. Every TradeMaster gets access to a dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every order. Join the thousands of trade pros already benefiting from their free membership at SupplyHouse.com/TM again, and order plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies from anywhere with just a few clicks. That's SupplyHouse.com.
So, in the Kansas City series against Cleveland, even though the Royals have started with 3 victories, they did lose. They've lost 2 starting pitchers in that series. Cole Reagans, I don't think it's a long-term deal because it was cramping in his legs. So it's not an arm injury, and it's not something else that's going to keep a guy out for longer. But tonight they also lost Lorenzen when he made an awkward play at first base. A leg injury, I think, of some kind. I forget if it was a knee or an ankle, but that could be for as great as the Royals have been, that could set him back, having to go to the well with Alec Marsh or somebody else like that again as a starter. So it's not like whoever is in first place has all of their cylinders clicking. It's still there for the taking for the Twins if they can just get their act together a little, sharpen it up a little bit, maybe get 1 or 2 guys back in the lineup. I hate to sound like Johnny Optimism, which would make a terrible name for like a comic or something like that, like a comic book, but or a Marvel superhero. What's your superpower? Well, I just think everything's going to be okay.
Everything is awesome, like the Lego movie.
So,
do you?
Yeah,
let me ask
maybe.
You, do you have a problem with the fact that they're not pushing Correa and Buxton back faster?
Oh, heavens no.
I don't either, but I mean, there seems to be this weird fan sentiment. I saw someone say, Twins dropping all these games and Buxton and Correa are playing grab ass in the dugout. And I'm like, what? Like, are you out of your freaking mind? People mad that Brooks Lee was playing short in Omaha today instead of up with the team. And it's like, you rush these guys and it sets them all the way back to where it starts over again. Like, do you have any idea the physiology of injuries or how any of this works? I don't understand this bitterness, this cloud of awfulness that just sits over this fan base all the time, insisting that every single thing that happens is some grand conspiracy or a bunch of morons running the asylum. And maybe I'm venting a little bit too much to the wrong person, but it just, at some point, if you aren't enjoying MLB and watching the Twins, all you want to do is complain all the time. I'm sorry, find a new hobby. Baseball is a negative game. Game is filled with negativity. You don't need to inject any more of your own. And I don't know. I'm just sick of it.
I don't want to rip on fans too much just because they get emotional about it and they say things that they probably shouldn't. Maybe they mean them, maybe they don't. They're just not well-founded comments.
Yep.
They don't really add anything other than just making you shake your head a little bit. But to answer your question specifically, absolutely not. Buxton and Correa, they have a lot of time and money invested in both. They are people as well. They're human beings. If they're not ready to play, they're not ready to play. And pushing them, I think we assume something there. I think they are pushing them to play maybe sooner than they should. Just because they haven't hit the field yet doesn't mean they're not doing that.
They're pushing themselves. That's the thing that's also lost in this whole thing, is that it's not just about pushing these guys. These guys are already pushing themselves.
Of course.
You
think Byron Buxton? You think Carlos Correa wants to be sitting there playing grab ass in the dugout? He wants to get in the field.
Yeah, it's like, are you familiar at all with the backstory of Carlos Correa and like the fire he's been known for having in his entire career? Like, this is a guy that wants to get right so he can help this team, and I'm sure it eats him up every single minute of every single day that he's not doing that right now. But at the same time, too, Willie Castro at whatever percent an average player is at this time of year. I don't mean average in terms of playing quality, but every player is playing with something now. They're tired, they're beat up, whatever. Willie Castro at his current state is a better baseball player than Carlos Correa at his current state. And so you roll with that, in addition to the fact that if Carlos Correa gets hurt in his current state, he falls even further behind that curve. People are just, it's so funny how they're just so certain these guys are lazy and stupid and not trying to get back into the game. And it's like, I just don't get it, man. If you're that miserable, watch something else.
Just so I don't come off as somebody who thinks the players can do no wrong. A player who I like individually a lot and have appreciated his struggle this year and how he's trying to come out of it, Edouard Julien. He got a big hit tonight, but he also made a couple of plays in the field. They weren't errors, but you just kind of saw the limitations there. There was the play where he threw home where they had the infield in and he still couldn't throw the guy out at home. He doesn't have a very strong arm. There are other things that he does in the field that where he's worked hard on his defense. He's a better defensive player than he was last year. I'm certain of it.
Yeah.
But you mentioned Brooks Lee. It's like, there have been a couple of plays in the last couple of days that if Brooks Lee's out there playing second base, they get that guy at home. They don't throw the ball into the outfield on a double play. Although as Julien, I think, said, he's like, I've never made an error on that kind of play before. So, arm side throwing it, he had the data. So,
yeah.
But there's still, Austin Martin, going back to that guy, he's obviously worked hard on his defense and his game overall, but still we see where he's limited. And, those in a tight race, things like that are going to cost you. So it's still, for as hard as the Twins are trying and as good as they prepare themselves, they still have limitations with the players they have on the roster, and they're just not good enough right now overall to overcome it. So there. How's that for being a wet blanket a little bit?
How's this for a limitation too, facing a possible Cy Young winner in the finale?
Yeah, Chris Sale against Festa in the finale. That isn't ideal. I
feel like the Twins.
I read somewhere he's having one of the most remarkable comeback seasons of it. He hit the depths there for a while of an injured player and for a number of years somebody who wasn't getting the most out of himself like he was earlier in his career, and he's been aces, so to speak, for the Braves. It's just it's going to be a tough one. I don't know boy, they could use a win though somehow. They need to pull it out like they couldn't tonight.
Let's get the complaining about Manuel Margot leading off and Kyle Farmer batting 6th out of the way right now, because I'm here to tell you it's going to happen, and it's going to be there until shift change at the mine. And it will be interesting to see too if the Twins can knock him around a little bit, because it feels to me like the Twins have won their fair share of games where the pitching matchup didn't favor them. So we'll see.
All right, hey, do we have any corporate wraps on this episode?
By the way, thanks for making Locked On Twins your first listen today. For your second listen, enjoy the Locked On MLB podcast with Paul Sullivan, a.k.a. Sully, who is here to provide daily national expertise, easy for me to say, with his trademark humor to help you get ready for the MLB playoffs here in the dog days of summer. Prepare for the Fall Classic with Sully, who has it all covered every single day on Locked On MLB. Available on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts, because like Locked On Twins, it's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, which is your team every day.
Every day. That's going to wrap it up for this episode of Locked On Twins. For my co-host, Brandon Warren, this is Dave Brown. Thanks for putting up with my COVID cough and all that. My Kaufman Stadium cough has returned after many weeks off. But other than that, we'll see you. We'll see you
tomorrow night.
Because that's when we'll return. We won't return in the day. It'll be at night.
I'm so sick of the Braves.